Let me ask you about the wildlife rangers. The Kenya Wildlife Service is one, but every country all across Africa has guards that are out trying to protect the wildlife. You actually did a portrait project. We're seeing a couple of the images there where well, why don't you tell me what you were doing here? There's a number of these. They're rather striking images. What were you trying to accomplish with this portrait series?
So typically we hear about rangers when there is a news brief saying that a bunch of rangers were ambushed and killed, and it sort of becomes background noise, and then it sort of disappears and until the next time around. And so I thought that I wanted to by taking frontal portraits like this, I wanted them to bring in the foreground to show that they are real people who are actually doing that job, which is basically, they're willing to pay the ultimate price in saving wildlife. And that was the beginning of what I wanted to achieve. And then I focused, the first range of portraits that I did, I focused on private game reserves in Kenya, where it's a positive story where private game reserves, are basically investing a lot of money in protecting their wildlife, and the numbers are actually up. So
Mm.
it's not decline; it's going on the up. And I wanted to bring some positivity as well in this book, because there's a lot of positive things happening as well. But it needs reinforcement, so to speak, right? So I wanted to connect the work of those rangers in those private game reserves with the fact that they're doing such a good job because they're well funded, they're well trained, they are respected, their family is being taken care of, and therefore corruption is being taken care of, and they take their work very passionately. And I thought it's kind of an homage to the work that these people are doing on the ground, which nobody really focuses on.
hmm hmm Kelly Millington just sent a question in, and I'm going to read it. And others, if you have questions, now's the time. Kelly writes, how can I, as a US based travel advisor who sells African safaris to high-end clients, who consider this a luxury bucket list experience, and we know there are people who dream of going to Africa their entire lives. How can Kelly act more responsibly? Clearly moved by the problems you're outlining. How can someone send people on luxury trips but also feel good about themselves?
Yeah. I mean, all of us are dealing with the same problem, basically. What is the truth? Okay.
Yeah.
How can we make sure that what we read and what we see or what we're being sold is the truth? And that's the problem today. So the only way to achieve a trip like this is to be able to make the proper research and really search it very well and engage with the right people who would give the right advice. So that's more work, obviously, but it's worth it. And those organizations and those lodges and do exist, and but they are harder to find.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's a good question, Kelly. And if others have questions, now's the time. Guillaume is I really want to thank you for joining us and from Athens, where it is 7 hours later. So you're doing incredibly well. Tell me a little bit about you and photography. How did you first become a photographer? And when I was working with you, you were covering all manner of stories, but a lot of conflicts, a lot of sort of tough stuff. How has your photography career evolved a little bit over time?
I mean, when you and I met, the journalism world was a very different one, and photojournalism was, let's say, in a better place. And journalists and photojournalists need money to go and do their work on the ground, to be able to spend enough time on the ground, to be able to come back with the good, so to speak, to prove that what they've seen does exist. The problem that we're facing today is that we don't have those revenues anymore to be able to do that job properly. And very, I mean, some people are still doing it, and they're lucky enough to have some organizations behind them, but those organizations are few now. So my work has become more documentary, in the sense that I focus on making books the way I just did this one. And so I spend my own time and my own dime, so to speak, to go deeper and spend more time on the ground, to be able to come up with a book like this, because you can't do a book like this in 2 years, right? So even me, I needed 20 years to be able to say the things that I'm saying now, to be able to be assertive about it, because I know what I've seen, and the book is the proof of that. So that's where my photography is now. If that answers your questions, Mark.
Yep. Is there a image in here that is your favorite one, or one that stays with you? Is there one you want to point to?
Yeah, I think the one that I really like is that lion that we saw earlier, which is, he's still the Lion King, and he's surrounded, and he's sort of posing, and he's sitting on his four legs in the middle of this quarry, just outside of the Masai Mara Game Reserve, quarry that's being used by humans to come and get stones and sand to be able to build houses. And you have that lion there, somewhat still being the Lion King, which is equally sad, but equally gives me hope, And I think that picture is a kind of a good example of what this book is about. It's about the fragility of the beauty, and the beauty being the lion, and the strength of the lion is still there, but his world is being attacked, and we need to help it.